of Get Desky, but what she really likes to be known for is wife and mom. But a couple of interesting things about her. She loves to go bottom fishing in the ocean for grouper, snapper. But maybe if you ever get a chance to meet her, you should ask her about barrel racing. And if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you know about Barrel Racer as one of the names. Actually, that's from The Hobbit, from Bilbo. So anyway, welcome to the show, Jennifer. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I can't wait to share some wisdom with these people.
So you've been going to events for a long time. I like to ask this question. Of all the events that you've been to, what are a couple that stand out to you as being memorable? And you can't say social media marketing world because we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what are, maybe don't tell the names of it, but what are some things about memorable events that stand out for you?
Yeah, so as you were as you were saying that, a few events came to mind, and they were actually from my childhood. Because another little known fact is I'm actually a third generation entrepreneur. And a couple of the events that stood out to me are some of the ones that my dad hosted for events that he had for power plants that he had. One of them in particular was Bring Your Kid to Work Day. And if you didn't know, my dad builds power plants. And so we have, at the time, they had cranes and backhoes and all this kind of stuff. And so kids got to go to the actual place where their parents were working and in a safe environment got to be able to see what their parents were doing and, got to sit in the cockpit of some of these equipments and got to operate them. And so even as a very early memories that I have, that's some of the things that I really enjoyed was being able to have, like that family environment where events were incorporated into business and that's one of the things like you alluded to social media marketing world. I brought my family. So it's something that brings me joy to be able to do that.
Well, there's a couple things about that experience. The relationship with your family that obviously bonded you in a way to your dad, in a way that you got to see and feel what he does. But then, hands on, working that machine, you're never going to forget that feeling and the sound and probably the smell of the diesel. It engaged like all these senses that would make it memorable in a way that most events don't do. And so obviously it was so personal. That's a big deal. But you make events and the way you approach events personal in a different way. And I'd love for you to describe what you do because I think you do this at a lot of different events, but you take that same idea but bring it to the places that you go. Do you want to like translate
Yeah.
that for us?
Yeah, so um, the gift that I've been given with my family, and you nailed it on the head, was relationships. It's something that my family has always taught us in many different ways, not so much of like how we say it, but the actions that we did. And so when I look at events or look at like where I'm gonna go, I look at like who are the people that are there? Who do I want to connect with? And then I just open them an open invitation of like, hey, I'm here, let's connect, like let's be humans first and let's actually say hi instead of going in and being like, hey, I want to do a presentation of like what we offer. I just do a low leverage of like, you guys are here, I'm here, let's just meet up and actually see each other face to face, and it brings so much more barriers down and it allows people to just be human first, and then the natural progression of, oh, I align really well with this person. Oh, this person's awesome, but something's off about them, and maybe we're good at like being friends, but maybe not a business partner. So it allows people to kind of come to a space where they can just actually introduce themselves as themselves.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you do that. What I've seen you do at social media marketing world is you do it prior to a larger event where that same thing is happening, but it can be a little bit more difficult when you're in a room or at a bar with two,
Mhm.
300, 500. We've had up to 1,000 people at these kind of gatherings before, which I don't know if you were there for that, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but you're doing it in a bit smaller environment before you bring
Yes.
people
And
over.
I
Describe
also
how you get them there. Good. Sorry.
So there's a few things that I do. So if we're talking about what I do at social media marketing world and what you guys do, and so if we're really narrowing down the differentiator, social media marketing world, you guys are trying to bring excitement and you're trying to bring hype, and so you guys are picking places that are going to have that feel to them. And so on the opposite side, I'm wanting something that's a little bit more. Less energetic distraction wise because I really want people to come in and feel welcome and a calmer environment. Because I have found when I go to conferences that are bigger like that have anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000 people that show up, there are people that are like, I don't know anybody here, and I just want a place before I go to this big party to have one person that I can walk across the street with. I had 40 people show up at my event, and the vast majority of them were like, hey, when they left and they went to the big kickoff party, they all walked together because now they had made a connection to where they felt safe to be able to go to that bigger environment. Because when you're, especially as a woman, and you're going to a city that you're not there with, there are safety things that we have to kind of in the back of our mind remember. And so if you can go in and you can have like a couple of people that you can walk with so that there's safety in numbers, that makes it so much less stressful for someone that is their first time to want to go to an event like that. So that way they can then say, oh, have you been here before? Oh, yes, I have. Do you know a few people that are going to this? Can you introduce me to them? And then really bring them into the fold so that they feel welcomed. Um, and then the other thing that I did is, and I found that my max is 45 people, is every single person that showed up, I said hi to them directly. And I know that's really hard when you get, more people coming. But it's really important to try to get to as many people as possible when you are the organizer intentionally, because a lot of the times they're there to meet you, especially if they've seen you on social media or they've seen you in the groups or they've seen you in the apps. And whatever you are doing is resonating with them. They want to at least for you to say, hi, thank you for coming. Um, and I think that made all the difference because when I hosted it for the second time, people were like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go back." Like Jen had made it so fun and so inviting.
Yeah, I love what you said about lowering the barrier for people who are new. Because I think whenever you go to a larger event and you come by yourself, which a lot of people do, and it's your first time, no matter if you're introvert or extrovert, shy or outgoing, that can be a threatening experience. I've heard some of the most extroverted people say, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do because this is so overwhelming." And you're taking them into a little bit quieter, a little bit more gentle environment where you've curated the people in the room. And you can talk about this in a minute, but you've said if you're a small business owner, come to this. So you've created a little bit of a niche of, oh, I want to go to an event with other small business owners who, maybe are here for the first time, but it's a great way to step into this larger experience. So I love what you said about lowering the barrier. We've been seeing people do different kind of meetups for, over a decade. They'll go sailing, they'll go do a beach trip, they'll go to, on a taco tour, they'll do different kinds of things. There's something unique though about what you're creating that's different from all those things because it is a gathering of people with no other agenda than meet each other and
Yes.
talk about how you're setting the stage for that. Are you individually inviting people? Like, let everybody know what your methodology is because you get more people to sign up than you even have space for, which is unusual.
Yeah. So I do a few things. So first of all, I already know like the people I want to connect with. I want to connect with entrepreneurs and small business owners. And so knowing that, and I know some of my friends from the year before are going to come. And so I reach out to about 4 or 5 of them and I say, hey, hosting another meetup. I'm going to drop it in the group. All I want you to do is share your experience that you had from the last meetup. And when you get that public buy-in from like 4 or 5 people that are like, Jen is like awesome. Like you just need to go and just like say like at least experience it. It just catapults it forward. And then from there, it's just a matter of just reminding the group, like, hey, this is available. We would love to have you. And just leaving the opportunity open for anyone. And one of the things that I also do this in my inner circle that I do is always teach people you are always in the space of giving people the opportunity. That's all you are doing. And when you just allow people the opportunity to walk through the door and say, there's no agenda here other than I just want to meet you, you allow people to remove that thing of, oh, she's going to try to sell me something. I didn't try to sell anybody anything. Well, unless you talk to my business partner, I tried to give him a free water bottle, but I I I didn't try to sell him anything. There was no pitch. There was not even a breakout session. There was nothing. It was like, hey, come and connect. And then I gave them water, tea, and appetizers. That was it. And I set the prelude ahead of time because I know, and you know this as hosting events, if you don't tell people ahead of time you're not buying them drinks, they will assume you are. And so I said, hey, we will give you, water and tea and appetizers, and all we want you to do is just come and meet us. And it turned out beautifully.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think the idea of using personal connections to invite others and validate it is great when it's year number two. But let's talk about year number one. Like a lot of people listening to this, whether you're an event organizer or you're someone who goes to events, this is something that you want to empower people to do. The first year, no one knows you. And you're doing this. Maybe it wasn't your first year at the event. I don't remember that. So that could be a differentiator. But talk to us about if you were going to do this for the first time at a different event, what would you do?
So last year's was my second year. So this year was my third year at Social Media Marketing World. So it was not my first time to have people that were going to the event. So I was able to call in those people. However, I didn't call in to those people at the start. So what I did was, and this is something you have to figure out, like how the event is organized. If we're talking about like social media marketing world, where you guys encourage networking ahead of time, you guys do I think like 3 to 6 months before the event, you guys open up a Facebook group and it's all about, hey, I want you guys to find the other people that are like you or that you're trying to connect with. Go connect with them. Um, and so when you do that, and then the organizers are saying like, hey, set up a meetup, do it. They want you guys to do that because the event people want their people to have a good experience. And you guys do a really good job of fostering that. And so I just went in there and I was like, oh, I really want to connect with these people. And so the first year that I went there, um, someone posted in the group. It was my first time there. I was new. I got there, knew nobody, and somebody posted in the group, "Hey, I love dogs. I'm new here, and I want to have dinner with other people." And I was sitting there, and I'd gotten in, and I checked into my hotel, and I was reading through that, and I was catching up on emails, and I saw that, and I was like, I'm sitting here eating a snack by myself, and I'm like, I'm not a loner. Yes, please. And so from that message, 5 of us connected and had dinner together later on. And so that sparked us being able to hang out for the rest of the event and go and do other things. So if anybody's listening to this and someone genuinely puts in the group and says, "Hey, I want to connect with you," go and do it. There's so many events where people are like, "I just genuinely want to meet new and awesome people," and people can really surprise you when you go on a limb like that. I had no idea that saying yes to that was going to lead to one of the best relationships that I have now. Didn't even know that when I said yes to that. And she's still my friend here today. And we go to social media marketing world together. And we do a lot of things together. And so if there's one thing that you can take away from that, it's be willing to meet new people, especially if you're able to see, like, there's a lot of people that go to this event. There's a lot of people that are excited about it. Um, go and see like who's engaging with these people and be like, hey, you seem pretty cool. Can we like meet up? Like, or where are you at? Because the whole time, like, I barely went to any of the sessions. I was hanging out and connecting with people, going to lunch, going to breakfast, hanging out in the hallways, um, setting up curated dinners for a couple of people that I invited to come. But I still got more out of it, and I got the recordings of the session so I could still learn.
Yeah, I love a couple things about what you're saying. One is be willing to get outside of your comfort zone. And I think people need to have that mindset before they arrive. Because if you don't have it before you arrive, I've seen people say after their first year, I didn't really get out of my comfort zone to network. When I come back next year, I'm going to do that. That's my intention. And they feel like they almost wasted an opportunity their first year. But if you come in
Yeah.
with the mindset, I'm going to try a couple things here. Something I've seen happen, Jennifer, with these kind of meetups is someone will announce, we're going to do a meetup for, let's say, restaurant owners. I don't know, I'm just picking a random category. And they pick a location and they tell the restaurant, I need a spot for 20 people. Then they go into whether it's Facebook or an app or somewhere, and they say, I'm doing this meetup. And for the longest time, it's like 10 people. Then all of a sudden, at the last minute, there'll be 30 more people who sign up. And then they show up at this restaurant expecting that there will be space for them. And they get frustrated with the restaurant. The restaurant is frustrated because, hey, we only had a spot for 20 people. You can't be demanding here. This is the space that we had. If that happened to you as the organizer, you look bad to everyone. You look bad to
Mm-hmm.
the restaurant because you said I need a spot for 45 people. You look bad to the people who are coming because you didn't have any kind of cutoff. I wonder if you've got any wisdom on that, because that's a bad experience when we're trying to create a good experience for people as
Yes.
they arrive
Yeah.
at the event.
So, one of the things so while I did pseudo host it at a restaurant, it was actually at an open bar. So what I do is, and because I have data, so here's the part of like I have data, so I did know that I was tracking it. I did see like the numbers were low. Yes, they were trending upwards, but I had already known, and I had even talked to other people, be like, hey, like I already know that this is going to jump up. As people figure out, like what their flights are like, what all this is like, like when people actually get in and get settled and, they have like a few minutes to like really be like, I don't want to sit here by myself. Like, and then they go into the app and then they're like, oh, there's something coming up. So I had people that RSVP'd that didn't show up. And then I had people who didn't RSVP that showed up. And so what I do is I always say, okay, at worst case scenario, if I have everybody on the list show up plus 15%, will I be okay? And that allows me to say, okay, where are the spaces that I'm actually going to be able to have available? I don't really do restaurants because I got feedback from the two different events that I did. So I did the networking meetup right before the kickoff. I think it was like an hour and a half. I tried to give people a break, but people stayed longer, which I loved. I loved that. I loved it that they stayed. And then they were like, we're going to walk straight over to the Hard Rock. I loved that. Like that's the whole reason that I did that. And then I did another curated dinner. And the feedback that I got from that was they loved it. They loved who they got to meet. And there will be relationships from that. However, when sitting at a table, you're not able to get up and move around and have different conversations. You're kind of stuck in the conversations around you. So, having the space to be able to connect with people and then also move around is really helpful, unless you're trying to do like an appreciation for your clients. That's really when I find that dinners are more appropriate because it can be a smaller setting. Um, but when I did it for connections, people didn't really like that, unless you're going to do it in a bar setting where again, like you can. It's kind of like that understated thing of like where you can get up and you can move around, because there's nothing worse than sitting next to someone who's not really good at connecting and building relationships and they're just trying to sell you the whole time and you're like, I don't even know if you have kids, I don't know if you have a dog, I don't
Right.
know like anything else about you except for you have this thing and you're trying to sell people, um and and not being able to move for like an hour or two and you're like, this is a terrible experience. um, so that was feedback that I was given, and I thought it was wise. So really think about like what kind of environment are you trying to foster? Like, are you really just trying to? Because I know I went to breakfast ones, I went to coffee ones, I went to dinner ones, I went to ones where we go and we do things. And they all have their pros and cons, but the core of it is you need to make really think about what kind of experience, if you were going, do you want people to feel when they leave?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
and
that's good.
then go and find those places that have that.
Yeah, I think, it's great to have someone on the ground who has local knowledge that can advise where are those kinds of places, which we've had. You haven't needed it because you were there and kind of knew the spots, but others are asking those kind of questions. What would be a bar or a restaurant or an environment where we can create this kind of experience? One thing that I've seen, and this didn't happen to you, is I've seen someone post that they want to do an event at, let's say, a sunset at a certain place overlooking the ocean. And they had 8 people sign up. And this was a woman who organized it. And she gets there, and only one guy shows up out of the 8. And he was awkward. And she had to bail. And it was that's not a great situation to be in. And unfortunately, she was already there and she had to figure out a way to get out of it. So I've always, I think depending on your app, there are ways that you can get people to commit to being there as opposed to it's just a general, I might be there, I might not. Because I think the way our app does it, they can sign up and there's no accountability. And so I've seen 50 to 70% of the people who sign up is kind of the trend of what actually happens in general, unless it's a specific kind of event where more people go than actually register. But that's typically when you've got a hard rock bar kind of thing and the word gets out and you don't even know how many will show. But something like you did, it's fine if you've got a sailing trip where people need to put down money. You need a way for them to put the money down and say, yes, I'm
Yeah.
going. But there's other kind of events. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you've done this at other events where you have some kind of a surety that the people who say they're going are actually going to show up.
No, and the reason that I don't do those is because because of that right there. So you can, if unless they're getting that and they're paying for their tickets ahead of time, um, I don't do those. I will say like, hey, I'm gonna go here, and I have already got my ticket. If you need more information of getting your ticket, and we can all go together, that's how I would do that. Mainly because I would want to protect myself too. because I would not want to be in that awkward situation. If somebody's wanting to do something like that, that's something to do after you've met a few people at the event. So that's not something to do like and post ahead of time. Because I know, like, even throughout the event, there were people that were starting to post events. You know, there were some people that posted before, but the number of events that popped up afterwards, you know, there were events that were popping up even after the event started. And so if you're wanting to do those types of meetups that require, you know, like actual money, one, I would not be the point person to like send all the money to. And two, I would only say like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be at this time. And then if you've already met a couple of people at the event that are also interested in that, ask them to purchase their tickets right then and there, and then tell them to spread the word. So that way you're not the only one and you're not the one dealing with the money, because that can be all sorts of crazy, especially like with you know, all the business stuff, everything associated with that. And then that also makes it to where it's a better experience, because you're like, hey, I met you, you're really cool. We both like going sailing, we both like going fishing, we both like whale watching, we both like these things. There's a tour coming up. I want to go do it. Do you want to go? And then that makes it such another way that you can connect with people and build a relationship with them, versus doing it ahead of time. I know it's hard with some of the tours because they want buy-in ahead of time. Um, but that again, you can also tell people, and have them purchase their own ticket.
Yeah, I've seen people do that different ways, but generally speaking, you're right. Have them buy their own ticket and then verify that with the group. That lady who got in that awkward situation, if she would have gotten two or three people in advance to say they're going with her before she ever posted it, then she wouldn't have been put in that awkward situation. But she posted it assuming she would have great people because she had prior experience, you know, that these were always a good thing. But that soured her from wanting to put
Yeah.
herself out there. But I think there are just wise ways, you know, particularly if
Yeah.
you're a woman, but even for a man, you just don't know, you know, what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Like the person you said who got stuck next to an awkward person at dinner, you don't want to be stuck as two people going and having this experience and it being super, super awkward the whole
Yeah.
time. So I think there are
Yeah.
ways. And even if you've never been, you can say, hey, I'm interested in doing a taco tour. Who else loves tacos? And you have a chance to kind of, you know, judge who the people are before you decide to find a time and a place. So I think there's some
Yeah.
wisdom in that.
Yeah, and you can definitely like leverage the group. So one of the things that, you know, you guys reached out to me about is like, how are you leveraging this group? Because like you're always like on the top 10 of like engagement. Like, what are you doing? And one, I'm actually just asking those questions like that of like, hey, who likes tacos? Who wants to meet up? Like, who's an entrepreneur? Like, I'm just asking questions to filter, like, hey, I'm here. I just want to have a conversation with people. And then when people respond, respond to them. And then you have a chance to figure out, like, are they like, you get a chance to figure out like what they want from you based on their responses. So you never want to assume, but you can kind of understand like who people are by the responses that they have. And then you can look at their profiles too. The other thing that people miss is you guys open this group and y'all are like, hey, connect with each other. No one says that you can't get on the phone or do a Zoom with these people ahead of time and say, hey, I'm feeling out, you know, how many people would be interested in this? Can we hop on a Zoom? You guys don't inhibit people from doing that. It's actually highly encouraged. Like you guys want people to connect. You guys want people to have that really good experience. And you guys want people to come to social media marketing where they're like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in a year. It's so awesome. Like I physically haven't got to see you. We've been doing Zoom calls, we've been doing DMs on Facebook, you know, we've been texting. You guys want that. And so I think there's two things as being an attendee and an event host, making sure that people understand you want them to connect both before and after, because that's going to elevate the event and the experience for the people.
Yeah, if you're an event host, I would say this, and hopefully you've been listening all the way till here. You want to find the Jennifer Bennett's at your event. You want to find the people who love connecting other people, who aren't going to be afraid to organize these meetups. And if you see them, reach out and invite them. Jennifer's the type of person who reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to do this at this location. Would that be okay?" I think you actually asked me for permission and letting me know that you were planning to do it. So it was on my radar. And it was like, hey, we empower anyone to do this. So you're absolutely right. Today, in today's market, people come to events for the connection and the experiences. The information, as you said, can be devoured online through recordings from the event, or you can go to YouTube and probably find someone talking about similar things if you're willing to do the research. But the connections can't be replaced. The person that you met because you were willing to go out of your comfort zone, and that relationship is something AI can't do. Um, Apps aren't going to do, recordings aren't going to do. You had to actually go there and be willing to try something. And that's what we want. Like event organizers, we want those connections because that's where the magic happens. That's the serendipity. But it's not going to happen if you just stay in your hotel room. It's not going to happen if you sit in your seat at the event and never turn to the people next to you and you stay on your phone. You've got to go places like this and just be willing to try a couple things. You don't have to do everything. Just be willing to talk to three people, five people, go to a
Yeah.
place like that, and you're going to be surprised, I think, what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you, like, even when I went to the kickoff party, a couple of people were like, you seem to know everybody. And I'm like, yeah, because well, one, I've been on this journey for a while, and I am in a couple of groups to where I did know some of these people. But the real reason that I knew people is because I was willing to walk up to strangers and be like, hi, my name is Jennifer. A lot of people call me Jen. How are you?
And just stop and wait, huh?
Exactly. Just stop and wait and let them feel like the authentic, like, presence that I'm just wanting to actually like want to know your name and like how are you doing, or ask them a question of like what brings you to the event, or who are you most excited to hear from. Ask them a question that gets them to say, oh, okay, like this person actually wants to have a conversation with me. So many people want to do all the frameworks, they want to go through all of this stuff. Let's just go back to what we learned in kindergarten. I love the poem that says, everything that I learned in kindergarten. And if you go through and you read that, it talks about like you share, you actually ask questions, you do all these little things to learn how to be a friend and a connector and ultimately just a good human. And I think so many people forget that, because we do grow up and we do get more complex thought processes, but that poem comes up a lot, and I encourage people to read that, because when you start reading that and then you look at it in the context of going to events and connecting with people or hosting these like little micro curated networking things, you realize, okay, like that's what it is. It's basically just, when you think about what you did in kindergarten, it was learning how to be good people in a group environment.
I think we just need to go back to having our carpets or our rugs and milk and cookies at events, and we'd probably be good to go, right?
Yes, we could have Oreos, Milk's favorite cookie.
Exactly. All right, I want to ask you a fun question here. So, you said at the beginning that you like to be introduced as wife and mom even more than the founder of your company, and I think that personalizes you. But you've got another thing that you can say, and I don't know if you've ever used this, is I used to be a barrel writer. And having something interesting like that that catches people's attention, I think can open up doors that would be unexpected. What do you think about that? And I don't know if you've ever used that one as a line to get a conversation started, because it certainly got me intrigued.
Yeah, so I have. And so what I do is I really just try to be genuine, depending on like who the person I'm talking with, because I have so many different life experiences, because I got to travel with my dad building power plants. And then we had a ranch where I did do barrel racing with horses. And so I have so many of these different stories. And I have done that. I know one of the people that I met at an event last year, his daughter does English competitions. And so the way he was talking about her, and I was asking him questions of like what was going on. And he was talking about how she was having trouble training. And I was like, I totally get that. And then I was like, and then I went into a story of how one of my horses that I trained for barrel racing, every time he went into the alleyway, I had to lead him, somebody else had to lead him in there because as soon as I put any pressure in the stirrups, he would rear straight up.
Ooh.
And there was a 50-50 chance that I was fully saddled by the first barrel. And so when I explain this to people, people are exactly have that reaction. But so many people want to hide so much of their past and they want to be like, oh, am I going to scare this person away? I didn't. Like I made a lifelong connection from that gentleman because now he knows that he can come to me when his daughter is being having frustrations with that so that he can talk to me as a parent while I don't have a kid that does racing or anything like that. I did have a kid that's in sports. And so I can give him my perspective on, like horse riding and competing, plus being a parent of someone that was in sports for a long time. And so it gives him a space to for us to deepen that conversation, and also be able to serve him because he's also an entrepreneur. And so I can dual those. So sometimes we try to bury our past or unique things. And me, I'm just like, I'm here. Like, what do you want to know? There's so many different unique things about me. So
Yeah, and I think being prepared to own those things and share those things because it makes us human. The fact that I know that about you, wife, mom, you know, barrel racing, all the different things you like to go fishing. It's like all of a sudden you're a person, multidimensional, and there's a lot of different access points because I might be able to tell you, hey, my brother takes, my nephew out deep sea fishing as one of the favorite things he gets to do. Every time he goes to Houston for a medical treatment, they go deep sea fishing. And like that's a story. It's true. Like it happens multiple times a year. I always see the pictures on Instagram and I can say, and he's from Dallas. So, and I know you're from the Dallas area. So it's like all of a sudden you got these connections that you can make because of common interest that you didn't realize. And I think, when we're networking at events, it's easy to think, I just need to focus on what you do. And is there a possibility of us partnering when the connection might be like I was at coffee this morning and this guy's, I don't know, she was an in-law. We'll just say that it was a complicated relationship, but they were talking about going and getting cooking lessons at a local restaurant. And all of a sudden it's not business whatsoever. We're talking about life and fun things that you can do. And that usually is what opens up conversations in my experience.
yes, yes. And we're gonna bring this back full circle to my family again. Is that's why my family has the connections that they have now. It wasn't because we went to these conferences and listened to all these experts or did all those things. It's because of the lived life experiences that we had with these individuals that we have now. We would do birthday parties. We would do, all of these barbecues. We would do all these other types of life things with people to get to know them as people so that when, if we needed to call someone in for something for my dad's job or for us or any of the other stuff, it was as simple as like, hey, Phil, like we are looking for this right here. Can you guys do this? Oh, no, we can't. But who can is this vendor over here. So it makes it so much easier to where when we need something, we can call in so many more people and say, hey, like, we were just fishing last week. I got this phone call, like, you need to go talk to Phil. It makes people want to help you win and win so much faster.
Absolutely. And that's what's powerful about events is you can meet a lot of people that you need to have in your network and you can be there for them. But if you go to sell, they're not going to be there for you. It's transactional, but if it's relationship, then these are people you're going to know for a long time. And when you need to sell, they're going to help you. Um,
Yep.
because we all need to do something transactional at some point in time. Otherwise, we couldn't support our
Right.
families. So
Yes.
this has been
Yes.
great, Jennifer or Jen. You like to go by either one.
Mhm.
Let's bring this to a close. I know we could talk for hours about this, but I want to bring it to a close. And we usually end with my signature sign off. So, what I'd like you to do is sum up our conversation with three words that stand out for you, at least one of them being emotional.
Mm. So I actually came up with this tagline a while ago, and it's called Capture, Connect, and Close. And I'll explain what those mean. So you're capturing people's attention, you're connecting with them, and then you're closing the loop on the relationship. So it's not so much a sale, you're closing the loop of the connection, because once you close the loop of connection, it just keeps circling.
I love that. All right, I'm going to play capture, connect, close. All C's. That means I need to start on the note of C, of course. Well, I hope that captured the connections, and now it's time to bring this to a close. How's that for bringing it back together? All right, Jennifer, please share where people can find you online. Where would you want to point them?
I made it super simple. It's Jen, Jen, dot getdesky.com, and that's GETDESKY.com.
All right, Jen Bennett, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great. Folks, I hope you go and take some of these lessons to heart, whether you attend events or whether you're an event host, and understand the power of bringing people together before the event even starts. Thanks again, Jen.
Thank you for having me.